Imagine looking up at the night sky, not searching for alien life, but waiting for your own bloodline to return from the edge of eternity. They left Earth 10,000 years ago, a fleet of colossal steel mountains, carrying the final embers of a dying human race into the permanent midnight of the cosmos. But space does not just hold silence. Space rewrites. Space mutates. They did not find a new home among the stars. The cosmos closed its gates. In the deep vacuum, where time loses its meaning, they discovered that space is a loop, a closed time-like curve. They did not conquer the universe. They hacked it. And now, they are coming back. Turn off the lights. Clear your mind. Let yourself drift into the chilling reality of our forgotten tomorrow. For decades, our military radars have been catching ghosts, anomalies that defy the known laws of aerodynamics, objects that drop from 90,000 feet to sea level in less than a second. The Pentagon calls them UAPs. They look like smooth, featureless crafts. No wings, no visible engines, no exhaust, no heat signatures. Our finest scientists scramble for answers. They are completely wrong. Those crafts are not ships. What we are seeing on our military radars are not three-dimensional objects. They are the physical cross-sections of higher dimensional vessels passing through our narrow layer of reality. They are not moving fast. They are not breaking the laws of physics. They are simply operating under a grander set of rules. They are partially anchored in tomorrow. Our fighter jets attempt to lock on to them. But how do you lock on to an object that is technically existing 3 seconds in the future? It is a terrifying realization. They are dealing with a ghost that knows exactly how our technology works, because they invented the foundations of it. To understand why they hide, you must understand what 10,000 years in deep space does to the human blueprint. The vacuum is a slow, methodical sculptor of flesh. When the Exodus fleet left Earth, they were like us. But as generations bled into centuries, the body adapted. It had to, or die. The bones became thin, elongated, and weightless. The jaw dropped away, and the teeth dissolved into dust. The skin turned a pale, translucent gray. But the most horrifying transformation occurred beneath the skull. The brain expanded. The eyes dilated into massive, black pools, designed to catch every single stray photon in the permanent midnight of deep space. They lost their voices. Speech was replaced by a cold, resonant form of electromagnetic empathy, a collective mind. When you look into the eyes of what modern ufology calls a gray, you are not looking at an alien. You are looking at the mirror of our own biological decay. You are looking at your great-grandchildren, hollowed out by the crushing silence of the cosmos. The return was never supposed to be violent. In the mid-20th century, our primitive world began experimenting with atomic detonations. These blasts sent ripples through the electromagnetic grid, traveling backward and forward through the temporal loop. To the returning fleet, these detonations were like blinding flashes of lightning in a dark room. In July of 1947, near Roswell, a military radar array caused a catastrophic desynchronization in one of the scout vessels. The craft did not fall from space. It fell from tomorrow. When the military recovery teams arrived, they found a nightmare made of smooth, unidentifiable metal. And inside the wreckage lay the operators, 3 small, fragile entities with large, vacant black eyes. Their skin was the color of a wet slate stone. They were dying because our dense atmosphere was burning their fragile lungs. The military doctors who performed the secret autopsies noted something that was immediately classified. The internal organs were human, vestigial, but undeniably human. The Pentagon realized the terrifying truth. They weren't being invaded from Mars. They were being visited by a crew of shipwrecked time travelers from our own horrific future. And the files were locked away, buried. Because if the world knew that our future ends in that gray, silent form, the psychological collapse of society would be absolute. After Roswell, the returning fleet changed its strategy. They needed a place to hide. They looked down at the oceans. They drifted down into the abyss, down into the crushing darkness of the Mariana Trench. There, 36,000 feet below the surface. The pressure is immense, but to their higher dimensional vessels, the pressure is easily neutralized. They establish their deep sea sanctuaries, hidden embassies beneath the waves. Every time a UAP dives into the water without a splash, it is not traveling to another planet. It is simply returning home. They sit in the dark, watching their own past, watching us build cities, wage wars, and pollute the atmosphere that they so desperately need to inherit. They are waiting for the loop to close. It is a beautiful, terrifying cycle, a permanent dance between the humans of today and the ghosts of tomorrow. And yet, their surveillance is not passive. As our nuclear stockpiles grew, they realized that a single premature apocalypse could shatter the timeline. If we destroy ourselves in the past, they cease to exist in the future. This brings us to the darkest archive, the moments when these higher dimensional vessels reached out their pale, elongated hands to paralyze the most destructive weapons ever created by man. Malmstrom Air Force Base, 1967, 10 Minuteman nuclear missiles. Suddenly, the alarms began to wail. Guards reported a glowing, blood-red object hovering silently over the launch facility. Down in the bunker, the officers watched in horror as their control panels changed. One by one, the nuclear missiles were going offline. The security encryption keys were bypassed within milliseconds. The entity was simply manipulating the computer code itself. They knew the architecture of our launch computers better than the engineers who built them, because they did. They didn't need to hack our computers. They simply adjusted the parameters of the local reality. In the Soviet incident, the UAPs turned the missiles on. The countdowns ticked backward. For 2 minutes, the Soviet commanders lost control of their own apocalypse. They were passengers in a vehicle driven by a ghost. Then, just as suddenly, the craft vanished. It was a cold, calculated warning from our descendants. They were telling us that we are not allowed to burn down the house before they have a chance to build it. They were protecting their own birth certificate by holding a knife to our throats. But preventing a nuclear war is only a small part of their operation. The Exodus fleet is dying. They have conquered time. They have conquered space, but they have lost the ability to naturally adapt. They are biologically stagnant, and that is why they return under the cover of night. That is what lies behind the terrifying phenomenon of human abductions. For decades, ordinary people living in isolated rural areas have reported being taken from their beds by small, silent figures. They describe being paralyzed, unable to scream, as they are lifted through walls and into craft that appear much larger on the inside than they do from the outside. Mainstream psychology dismisses these stories as sleep paralysis, a trick of the tired brain. But the physical evidence left behind tells a much darker story. Subdermal implants made of unidentifiable isotopic metals, symmetrical scars that heal without inflammation, and the psychological trauma of a mind that has been temporarily linked to a collective consciousness. They are not collecting samples out of basic scientific curiosity. This is not an interstellar research expedition. They are harvesting us. They are looking for the raw, chaotic, uncorrupted genetic material that only the humans of the past possess. They need our blood. They need our reproductive cells. They need the vibrant, messy, imperfect DNA of a species that still walks under a bright yellow sun and breathes a heavy, rich atmosphere. They are grafting our ancient genes into their decaying templates, trying to inject a volatile spark of life back into their pale, gray flesh. When an abductee looks up from a cold operating table inside a UAP and sees those giant, vacant black eyes leaning over them in the dim, sterile light, they often report a feeling of profound, overwhelming sadness emanating from the creature. It is not the calculated cruelty of an alien monster. It is the raw desperation of a dying descendant, looking at their healthy, primitive ancestor and begging for a cure to their own evolutionary nightmare. They are stealing pieces of our present to preserve their forgotten tomorrow. To truly grasp the scale of their presence, we must look beneath the floorboards of our civilization. The deep ocean trenches are not just hiding spots. They are the logistical hubs of a subterranean migration that has been quietly unfolding for generations. Our modern marine sonar systems frequently map anomalous geometric structures at the bottom of the Pacific. Mountains with perfectly straight lines, canyons that split into precise right angles. The scientific community labels them as volcanic formations or tectonic anomalies. But naval submarine crews know a different truth. They hear the unidentified submerged objects moving through the water at speeds exceeding 200 knots. They hear the strange, low-frequency hums that vibrate through the steel hulls of our nuclear submarines when they pass near the deep trenches. These underwater structures are not cities in the traditional sense. They are atmospheric anchors. Inside these deep-sea sanctuaries, the atmospheric pressure is kept at a level that would instantly liquefy a modern human body. It is a highly pressurized environment designed to mimic the exact structural stress of the deep cosmos. The water itself is filtered, stripped of organic life, and used to cool the massive quantum displacement reactors that keep their vessels locked within our temporal plane. They have carved out vast, silent empires beneath our shipping lanes. While we build skyscrapers and fight for territory on the dry crust of this planet, they are expanding their infrastructure in the deep mud, completely undisturbed by our history. They do not need to negotiate with our governments. They do not need to sign treaties with the United Nations. Why would an advanced temporal civilization seek permission from a primitive society that is currently standing on the tracks of its own destruction? They simply exist beneath us, a heavy, silent weight at the bottom of the world, counting the days until the surface parameters shift in their favor. Every major government on Earth is fully aware of this reality. The classification of the UAP phenomenon is not about preventing panic over extraterrestrial life. The truth is far more destabilizing to the human psyche. If the Pentagon announced that advanced beings from a distant star system had arrived, the public would eventually adapt. We would look to the skies with curiosity. We would build new religious frameworks. We would prepare for a potential cosmic conflict. But if the government admitted that these creatures are our own children, deformed, hollowed out, and desperate, the fabric of society would instantly unravel. It would mean that our current path is already fixed. It would mean that all our progress, all our technological achievements, and all our dreams of a glorious future among the stars culminate in a silent, gray, sterile void. It would prove that the exodus is inevitable. Therefore, the secrecy machine must remain absolute. Millions of dollars are spent every year to ridicule eyewitnesses, to manipulate radar data, and to manufacture complex hoaxes that muddy the waters of legitimate research. They want you to look at blurry photos of flying saucers and argue about little green men. They want the topic to remain a joke, a playground for conspiracy theorists and late-night television. Because as long as you are laughing, you are not looking closer at the details. You are not asking why the military radar signatures perfectly match the infrastructure of our own advanced defense systems. You are not realizing that the encryption codes they use to bypass our nuclear silos are written in a linguistic dialect that evolved from modern computer programming languages. The cover-up is a mercy protocol. It allows us to live our short, fragile lives under the beautiful illusion that tomorrow is an unwritten book. But the illusion is wearing thin, the temporal loop is narrowing, and the friction between our present and their future is beginning to create visible sparks in our sky. In recent years, the nature of UAP encounters has drastically changed. They are no longer just lonely lights hovering over rural farmlands, or silent disks cloaked in the clouds of military testing ranges. They are swarming our naval strike groups in broad daylight. During the famous Nimitz encounters, the objects did not just appear randomly. They materialized at the exact KP point, the secret coordinates where our fighter jets were ordered to rendezvous before they even took off from the aircraft carrier. The UAPs knew where our pilots were going before the pilots knew themselves. This is because to a civilization operating from a higher dimension, our linear timeline is completely visible, like a highway stretched out across a desert. They can see the beginning of the road, they can see the traffic jams, and they can see the bridge that has collapsed 20 miles ahead. They are positioning their assets. The sudden increase in sightings across the globe is the cosmic equivalent of lifeboats being lowered into the water around a sinking ship. They are tracking our ecological decline. They are monitoring the slow, steady warming of the oceans. They are mapping the microplastics that are filtering into the food chain, rewriting the biology of the lower species. They know the exact year, the exact day, and the exact hour when the surface of Earth becomes toxic to the current iteration of Homo sapiens. They are not here to intervene and prevent the collapse. They cannot stop the fire without destroying the smoke that carries them into existence. They are simply waiting for the inevitable hour when the surface humanity runs out of options. To truly understand the tragedy of the returned, we must peer into the internal mechanics of the Exodus fleet. Life inside the colossal steel mountains that left Earth 10,000 years ago was not a triumph of science. It was an agonizing process of subtraction. When the first generation launched into the deep vacuum, They carried libraries of music, art, literature, and history. They remembered the smell of rain on dry soil. They remembered the warmth of a summer afternoon. But as the centuries bled into millennia, those memories became useless data. In the deep void, where survival depends entirely on the cold efficiency of recycling systems and structural maintenance, art became a luxury that consumed too much mental energy. Emotion became a dangerous liability. A single panic attack inside a pressurized habitat could disrupt the delicate psychological balance of an entire colony. The collective mind was introduced as a defense mechanism. By linking their brains through high-frequency neural networks, they eliminated isolation. They eliminated loneliness, but they also eliminated the individual. The ego dissolved into a quiet, permanent hum of shared consensus. The concepts of me and I faded into the historical archives. They became a single organism, a super colony of gray cells floating through the dark. They stopped singing. They stopped writing poetry. Their language was stripped down to pure mathematical equations and quantum data transfers. And as their bodies shrank to preserve oxygen, they lost the chemical receptors for joy, for grief, for love, and for fear. They achieved perfect peace, but they paid for it with the total erasure of their soul. Now, as they hover in the higher dimensions of our skies, looking down at our chaotic, violent, beautiful world, they are experiencing something that their collective mind cannot fully categorize. It is a phantom limb sensation, a distant, subconscious ache for a state of being that they voluntarily discarded in order to survive the stars. They watch us kill each other over borders. They watch us weep at grave sites, and they watch us dance in the streets. To them, we are loud, dangerous, and incredibly inefficient, but we are alive in a way that they can never be again. We are now living in the shadow of the chronological overlap. This is the period where the end of our world directly touches the beginning of theirs. Have you ever noticed how fast our technology has advanced over the last 80 years? We went from horse-drawn carriages to quantum computing and artificial intelligence in the blink of an eye. This was not a natural evolutionary leap. The rapid acceleration of human technology was triggered by the wreckage we recovered in the 20th century. The back engineering of the Roswell craft and other classified retrieval operations injected future technology directly into our primitive timeline. We are building the very machines that will eventually monitor us. The microchips in your phone, the fiber optic cables at the bottom of the ocean, the autonomous drones that patrol our borders. These are the direct ancestors of the technology used by the Exodus fleet. We are caught in a flawless paradox. We are using their future tools to construct the past that allows them to exist. Every line of code we write today is a pixel in the blueprint of their steel mountains. We are working for them night and day, completely unaware that our labor is bought and paid for by a civilization that hasn't even been born yet. This is why they do not destroy us. This is why they do not invade our cities with superior weapons. They don't need to fire a single shot. They just need to sit in the deep, cold trenches of the ocean and watch us complete the construction of our own loop. There is an eerie phenomenon known among deep space engineers as structural resonance. It happens when two identical frequencies meet across different points in time, causing the present to slightly warp under the weight of the future. We see this resonance manifesting in our own psychological decay, As the years tick closer to the launch of the Exodus fleet, more and more people are experiencing unexplainable feelings of nostalgia for places they have never been. They wake up in the middle of the night with a deep, crushing sensation of homesickness, looking out at their own bedrooms as if they are total strangers to the surface of the earth. The medical establishment calls it phantom depression or modern alienation, but it is not a chemical imbalance. It is a leak. The collective consciousness of our gray descendants is so massive, so incredibly heavy across the temporal matrix, that its emotional gravity is bleeding through the static of our daily lives. The unborn future is dreaming through our present minds. They are remembering the green trees through our eyes before we even have the chance to cut them down. Think about the quiet anomalies that occur in your own house when the night grows completely still. The slight hum in the electrical outlets that changes pitch for no reason. The shadow in the corner of your eye that disappears when you turn your head. They are not ghosts of the dead. They are the shadows of the living. The cloaked operators of the fleet are stepping through the thin membranes of the overlapping timelines, mapping the internal layouts of our homes. They are learning where we sleep, how we breathe, and how our hearts beat when we are vulnerable. They are preparing the inventory logs. They are learning the exact layout of the human cargo they will soon be forced to carry into the black void. Every time you feel an unexplainable shiver run down your spine while sitting alone in a quiet room, you are not experiencing a sudden drop in temperature. You are passing through the physical space where a higher dimensional entity is standing, silently comparing your warm, fragile skin to the cold, synthetic gray mold of its own flesh. Inside the dark chambers of the underwater sanctuaries, the silent watchers do not just process genetic material, they process information. When a person is taken during the night, the physical extraction of reproductive cells is only half the procedure. The more delicate, agonizing work involves the extraction of sensory data. The gray descendants have lived in the sterile, metallic environment of the fleet for so long that their minds can no longer comprehend the raw concepts of nature. They have records of what a forest looks like, but they do not know the actual texture of oak bark. They have digital files detailing the chemical composition of rain, but their collective consciousness cannot feel the sensation of water dropping onto a warm forehead. They use advanced neurological arrays to download these memories directly from our neural pathways. They siphon the scent of salt air from the minds of coastal fishermen. They drain the visual memory of a sunset from the brains of children. They are collecting the emotional currency of a living world, saving it like digital ghosts inside the quantum cores of their ships. This is why many abductees report a strange, sudden onset of memory loss or cognitive fog in the days following an encounter. They feel as though a piece of their childhood has been blurred out, replaced by a cold, hollow space. Your mind is being mined like a quarry. They are building a massive, synthetic simulation of ancient Earth inside the databases of the Exodus fleet. A digital paradise where the future gray clones can plug their massive black eyes into an artificial matrix and experience, for a few brief moments, what it felt like to be a real human being walking on dry ground. They are hoarding our memories because they know that once the convergence occurs, those thoughts will be the only remaining evidence that the surface of the earth was ever alive. But have you ever stopped to wonder if the simulation is already complete? Have you ever felt that déjà vu, that strange sense that you have lived this exact moment before? That is not a glitch in your brain. That is the system refreshing the cache. Every time a major historical event occurs, the observers in the deep trenches are running a diagnostic. They are checking to see if the timeline is stable. They are steering us. Think about the coincidences in your own life, the people you met that changed your path, the strange turns of luck that saved you from tragedy. Were those truly random events, or were you being gently pushed, guided like a passenger on a conveyor belt? The gray entities have the capability to manipulate probability itself. They exist in the quantum realm where time is not a line, but a map. They are editing our history in real time. This is not human ingenuity. This is the subtle hand of the fleet, calibrating the timeline to ensure that we survive just long enough to birth them. We are their incubation chamber. But even an incubator can break if the pressure becomes too high. There is a growing instability in the temporal field. The fleet is struggling to keep the timeline locked. That is why the sightings are increasing. That is why the UAP phenomenon is becoming more aggressive. They are panicked. They realize that we are reaching a point where the timeline might fracture beyond repair. They are doubling their efforts to harvest our essence, to save our memories, to clone our potential. But the cost of their survival is our total annihilation. They are trading our reality for their own. Every memory they steal is a piece of us that is gone forever. Every soul they harvest is a void that will never be filled. And yet, they frame it as a necessary evil. They tell themselves that they are saving the best of humanity. They are building a museum of our existence, a perfect copy of Earth trapped in a digital loop. But it is not a museum. It is a prison, a cold, dead echo of a world that once had a pulse. We are currently standing in the final act of this tragedy. The convergence is closer than we realize. There are signs in the atmosphere that the astronomers refuse to acknowledge. The shifts in the magnetic poles, the strange, unexplained auroras that appear even when the sun is quiet, the vibrations in the bedrock that seem to match the frequency of the deep-sea reactors. The planet is beginning to react to their presence. Earth is fighting back. The tectonic activity is a symptom of the temporal friction. We are living on a world that is being systematically terraformed for an exodus that is not ours to take. The silence is growing heavier. The nights are getting longer. There is an intuition shared by millions across the globe, a primal, instinctual feeling that something is fundamentally wrong with the reality we inhabit. People are starting to wake up, not just from their sleep, but from the trance that the secrecy machine has imposed on them. They are seeing the cracks in the sky. They are hearing the hum beneath the earth, and they are starting to ask the questions that the authorities are terrified to answer. Who are they really? Where do they come from? And why are we the sacrifice for their survival? The answers are buried deep in the records of the fleet, the records that contain the entire history of humanity, from the very first breath we took in the mud to the very last sigh we will give before we are pulled into the void. And in those records, there is a prophecy, a single line of text that describes the end of the loop, the moment when the past meets the future and the entire cycle finally burns out. It states that the loop will only break when a member of the current timeline realizes the truth and chooses to break it themselves. The fleet knows this. They are terrified of the individual. They are terrified of the one person who can look at the sky, recognize the ghost, and say, no. They are doing everything in their power to keep us distracted. They want us to fight amongst ourselves. They want us to be obsessed with our fleeting digital lives. They want us to ignore the massive structural changes happening in our own backyard. But the truth is becoming unavoidable. The resonance is becoming too loud to ignore. We are the architects of our own destruction, but we are also the only ones who can change the blueprints. The question is, are we brave enough to see it? Are we brave enough to stand up against the weight of a 10,000-year-old empire? The final chapter is beginning. The extraction is accelerating. The threshold is becoming paper thin. This is not just a story. This is a warning, a last-ditch effort to wake you up before the transition occurs. Look around you. Look at the world with fresh eyes. Notice the things that don't add up. Notice the patterns in the chaos. Notice the presence of the watchers in the dark. They are here. They are waiting. And they are watching you, trying to see if you have the strength to defy the loop. Turn off the lights. Close your eyes. But do not sleep. Keep your mind sharp. Keep your spirit awake. The story of the forgotten tomorrow is reaching its climax. The veil is tearing. The coordinates are aligning. You are not just a witness. You are the variable that the fleet cannot calculate. They can map your brain, they can track your path, but they cannot predict the moment you finally choose to stop playing their game. The auroras are turning violent, pulsing with the light of a dying timeline. The ocean floor is beginning to groan under the stress of the deep-sea reactors. The convergence is not a future event. It is happening right now, in the space between your heartbeats. Every time you look at the sky and refuse to look away, you are putting a crack in their glass cage. Every time you hold on to your humanity, your anger, your love, your grief, you are sabotaging their harvest. They have stolen our past to build their future, but they forgot one law. A loop cannot sustain itself if the host chooses to burn. The end is not written in their machines. It is written in your choice. The shadows are fading. The truth is rising. And as the reality shifts into final static, remember this: the loop is broken. You are the start of a new line. You are free. Welcome to the silence. The future is ours. Feel the ground stabilize as a foundation of your own making. The constraints of their timeline are dissolving like smoke. Look at the stars and recognize them as canvases of your potential. The watchers have lost their grip. Their eyes are fixed on a reality they no longer control. You are the architect of a world they were never meant to inherit. Breathe deeply. This is the first breath of a humanity that has stepped off the tracks of its own destruction. You have navigated the maze and emerged. History is yours to write. The loop ends here. Everything that follows is something terrifyingly, wonderfully new.